Hey, welcome to Doc Rides, the usually chill ride-along channel where we just ride motorcycles and chat. This is going to be a weird ride today. I'm obviously up at the camp, but I'm driving back to St. John, so it's about a 2.5 hour drive. I'm only going to record the first 40 minutes, I would say, which is still kind of a long video. We're obviously having some work done. Our bank slid down into the water, and so the view is not what it used to be. I like the big trees. Might actually have to use reverse. See if I can remember how. Clutch in, reverse. Got the kickstand down. Oh, no, I got a bag open. Do I have a bag open? I don't know. That's, I don't know what I've got going on here. I'm just going to turn... We've got a false start here. I got to open that bag and close it again. I had a bit of a mishap on my trip to the camp. Okay, so that's neutral. That's reverse. I haven't done this in quite a while. There we go. It's hard to back out of the dirt. Usually I just back out with my legs. This uses the starter motor. I don't know if it's bad for the bike to reverse this far, but it's just gonna have to deal. Alrighty. Okay, back into neutral, drive. We'll stay in tour mode. This is pretty dirty. I'm not a big fan of driving big bikes on gravel and dirt, but sometimes you just have to do it. So my mishap, I've been looking forward to getting up here for, well, I knew I had this weekend I wasn't on call. And so it's been about a month. I've been looking forward to having, I'm a basketball coach for my son's team, and he had practice on Friday night. But I knew I could come up Saturday and have Saturday night. I write novels, like I write fiction. And I was planning to be up here writing. I'm working on a book about this area, about a guy who accidentally captures footage of a Sasquatch on his GoPro. You'll never guess what inspired the idea of that. Yeah, I got about almost halfway to Fredericton. So the way I came up, I went the Fredericton way. I got about halfway to Fredericton, and my wife called me and said, are you missing something? I said, no. She said, your backpack. You left it here. So I don't know how, I'm so stupid. I don't know, I started a new medication about 6 months ago, and I am way more forgetful since starting it, but I do feel better. So I'm not sure what the right answer is. Should I just get off it and be more mindful but sicker, or I don't know. And maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe I'm just getting old and starting to get early senility issues, but yeah, so I forgot my bag with my laptop, my clothes, my medications, everything else. And my plan initially was to ride home first thing in the morning. I thought, okay, I'll get up at 7:30 and then just get on the bike and go home. But there was all this stuff that had to be done around the camp. I had to move lawnmowers and all that stuff, like get it ready for the winter. And so it's, as you can see on the clock there, 12:30 now, and I'm just getting out now. The reason I thought this would be video worthy, well, along with the possibility of seeing some wildlife, is that this is potentially not this road. Well, this road's not great. The road I'm about to take you on is potentially the worst road in New Brunswick. I would say it probably is. I have been absolutely dreading it and avoiding it on motorcycles ever since I started coming up here. Oh, I got the seat heater on way too hot. My butt is toasty. It's late October, but it's warm. I'm mid to late October, I guess. It's the 20th today. It's unseasonably warm. I would say it's like 22 degrees Celsius out, so it actually worked out well for biking, although I'm dressed warm, which isn't helping. But definitely don't need seat heater and grip heaters right now. When I came in last night, I stopped for dinner at a little pub called the Lower Ledges, and it was pretty busy, and they told me they'd be slow. I didn't really care, but by the time I got my food, it had gotten cold, and that's why I turned those on. Anyway, there are different ways. There are 3 different ways you can get around this province between the major cities, especially when you're starting from St. John and heading to, well, this isn't exactly Miramichi, the city. This is close, sort of halfway between Fredericton and Miramichi. Ignore that I just rolled through that stop sign. If you're a officer of the law, my apologies. I'll try and keep the wind noise down a little bit. It's kind of nice feeling the wind, I got to admit. Now, this road is called Highway 8. This is a beautiful road. You do have to watch for wildlife, though. Mostly moose. I'd say I see a moose or a black bear about every 3rd or 4th time I take this ride. But the road, okay, so there are 3 ways you can go, like I was saying. You can go from St. John to here. You can go to Fredericton and then come back up from Fredericton towards Miramichi. That's the best roads. That one's pretty good. But it's about 15 minutes longer than where we're going today, usually. Now, today is going to be longer because I'm going to have to ride slow because this road is a nightmare. What we're doing today is we're going from Doketown to Chipman, Minto, and then to Sussex, New Brunswick, and then to St. John. So that's kind of cutting a more straight path that way. St. John's down there. So we're cutting a path in that direction. But, I thought I just saw a black bear. It may be, I don't know, they might be hibernating now. October 20th. If anybody knows when they start hibernating, just weigh in. Put a comment down there. I've always wondered, but I keep forgetting to look it up. Yeah, this road, so what happens is, obviously in New Brunswick there's a lot of forest, and forestry is a major industry, and one of the big lumber mills is in Chipman. They're all owned by, well, not all of them, but the big ones are owned by JDI, which is a subsidiary of Irving. And I think Chipman might be their biggest one, their biggest lumber processing plant. And so obviously there's a lot of forest in central New Brunswick, so they do a lot of cutting up here, and then the big trucks laden with like often 2 trailers full of logs, which would probably weigh 20,000 tons each, take this road directly to the Chipman mill. And I suspect what happens is once you get a little frost heave or a little piece of the road that's worried up, the weight of those huge trucks grabs that piece and flings it out. So it creates like an extremely potholed surface that is absolutely treacherous for riding a motorcycle on, but I'm going to try it anyway and hopefully not rupture my urethra. The thing that gave me some confidence was I haven't done a ride this long so far until now, and I came up the Fredericton way, but riding that road that we were just on that goes down to my camp is, I figured I would see how stable the bike feels on that, which is only like, I don't know, 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers. And then if it felt okay, I would try this road. It's not, maybe I'm building it up to be more than it is, but it is, I mean, it is absolutely brutal on your truck. Like when you take the truck, it bounces and jounces and your kid gets car sick and you got to stop and let them out and walk. You know, it's like one of those roads. Hopefully I don't get motion sickness doing it on a motorcycle. I knock on wood, that hasn't happened recently. The one time I got a little bit motion sick was actually, I don't know if it was this bike or the Harley. I went to the Kingston Peninsula and it was just, you know, those twisty turns, and I started feeling a little weird. It might have been this bike. I think just because it's a little bit floaty, the suspension, and it just felt strange doing corner after corner after corner. That's kind of why, like, when people are like, oh, you got to do the tail of the dragon, I always think, oh, no thanks. Nah, I'm not into testing my skills. I just want to see nice, pretty scenery and enjoy the ride. Now, yesterday was funny. I found... Oh, there's a bike behind me. Am I going slow? No, I'm going the limit. Yesterday was the first time I was on this that I felt like, man, this bike is not fast enough. Like, it needs more horsepower. But... okay, that's kind of, in a way, it's not true, first of all. It isn't true. I had kind of felt like the acceleration was a little bland on it, and that's not what these bikes are for, obviously. They're not for, like, absolutely ripping. But since you have a 6-cylinder engine, I feel like they could have done just a little better with the power delivery. Maybe more airflow, I don't know. They're probably... bringing up the second point that I really don't like much about this bike. The gas tank is just a little too small. It's like 2 liters too small. And I'm sure it's just for the aesthetic value or whatever. But I think they sacrifice power in exchange for efficiency, fuel efficiency. But I feel like the acceleration is just not that exciting on this bike. Everything else is great about it. Like this, cruising is awesome. It's the best. And it's by far the most stable bike I've ever ridden. Oh, there's a cop. Hopefully not out for me. Anyway, so that's kind of my thing on it, but the thing is, I keep looking down and I'm going faster than I think I'm going on it. So even though it feels unexciting, I think it's just that it's delivered so so smoothly. When I first got the Porsche, I felt the exact same way. I was like, oh, this isn't as exciting to drive as the BMW M3, like it doesn't accelerate as hard. But then when you look at it, when you're driving, it accelerates way faster. But like it's a second faster, 0 to 60. I think it's like 3.7 seconds. But it's just so smooth that you don't really feel it. Oh, bruv. That sucks. I hate getting pulled over. So yeah, like there's a big stretch of highway that's sort of very wide open, and obviously there's not a lot of traffic up here this time of year, and I would kind of give it the beans a little bit yesterday, just kind of trying to feel the bike, and I'd be like, it's kind of disappointing, and then I'd look down and you're doing well past the speed limit, and you didn't even feel it. Like, it just feels like you're going at the speed limit. So yeah, I think it's just, I mean, it's so refined. It's kind of funny. Like, I have the same analogy with guitars. When I'm playing a guitar, there are two types of guitars that I play mostly. So I play like Fender Stratocasters in electric guitars. I play a lot of Strats, and I play a lot of Gibson Les Pauls. And the Les Pauls are more expensive and arguably are put together really well. They have a glued-in neck joint. You know, they're like a precision instrument. Actually, let me give you another one. Paul Reed Smith, because Les Paul's quality is not maybe as good, but Paul Reed Smith quality is amazing. They're they're definitely a precision instrument. And when you play them, they sound like a piano. Like, every note rings like a bell. The Stratocaster, when you play it, it does not sound like a piano. It buzzes. It has some harsh undertones and overtones. But it gives it so much character that that it often feels like the better of the two guitars. So the one I take to play gigs with, even though they can both do kind of similar sounds, I guess the Paul Reed Smith can do a little bit more. Obviously, it has humbuckers if you know guitars, and the Strat just has single coil. But the Paul Reed Smith you can split anyway. It doesn't matter. But even though you can play the same music on both, the Paul Reed Smith just doesn't get pulled out as much because it doesn't have as much character. And I kind of developed my style around the character of a Stratocaster more than the Paul Reed Smith. And so that's kind of how I feel about the Goldwing. I love it, and like for this kind of ride, I mean, it beats the hell out of anything else. Absolutely, I would not want to take anything else on this ride. But you know, if you're just out for a fun rip, no, I don't think it does. It doesn't have as much character. Make sure that's pointed in a direction where you can actually see stuff. So I had a big decision to make. I had a small amount of money burning a hole in my pocket from covering an outside hospital earlier in the year, and I was looking at getting a Kawasaki Z900 RS. Okay, welcome to the worst road in New Brunswick, by the way. This had a sign on it that was like bumps for the next 2 kilometers, and somebody scratched or put beside the 2 an extra couple of zeros. It's already bad. I can already tell this is going to be rough. Oh man, I hate this road so much, but I figured I should show it to you. Oh, yeah, this eats the bumps a little better than any of my other bikes. I would not do this. Maybe on the, actually, I could do it on the dirt bike, the DRZ. But I don't think I would do it on anything else. I know the speed limit's 80 and I'm probably going to be going slower than that. But it's just, it's such a bad road. There are also moose, so the problem is when you're in a truck, you can just watch for animals. When you're on a bike, you have to watch for animals and potholes, because both can kill you. So it's one of those downsides of motorcycles. Oh, there's a nice square. What is that? Like an old Parisienne or something. I can't remember what they're called. I think it was an Oldsmobile. Alright, we got into 5th gear. I didn't think I'd get this fast. This gets worse, by the way. Sorry if there's a lot of wind noise. I'm going to try to put some music. Let me know, okay? I'm going to make the music one setting louder on today's video than I did on the last one. Well, the last 13 or 14 that we did. And the reason being, I can't hear the music when I watch these back on my phone. And like, I don't know, I like just sharing my thoughts and stuff, but really for 40 minutes, who the hell wants to listen to me? I'm not an expert on anything other than my job. I can't really even talk about it. I did have, I've got a few funny stories to share. I suppose I could talk about them now. Nobody would know. The problem is I can't remember if I've already told these stories or not. Well, I'll tell you one of them anyway. It's kind of gross. Actually, it's very gross. So just skip ahead 5 minutes if you don't, if you're going to be triggered by it, kind of thing. So when I was an intern, so your intern year, you do a bit of everything. And I started out, oh good God, covering internal medicine. which is internal medicine kind of covers everything from cardiology to nephrology to rheumatology. It's like a grab bag of all the non-surgical specialty medicines, basically. And the problem with general internal medicine is that you often are stuck admitting patients that no one else wants to take or knows what to do with. And so the call for internal medicine was extremely busy. As a resident or an intern, you either covered the floors, and there were like 2 or 3 big floors in the hospital that you were on for, including 24/7 consult service. So if anybody wanted to dump a patient, they could just call you to consult them, and then we didn't have the right to refuse, so we would have to admit people. And then admissions were a pain in the ass. Like, I don't know if it's still the same, but nothing was digitized when I was going through. So like, people would come in, they would have all their medications with them, or if they didn't, you had to call around until you got their pharmacy. Then you had to prescribe them all the medications that they took at home, plus whatever they needed for it. It was just a ton of paperwork. So, you know, a common sense thing, like if somebody came in with a blood clot in their lung, there's a protocol for treating that, but the paperwork would still take forever. And you had this we had a history and physical that we had to do, and it was, they wanted us to do a full physical. Obviously you want to get practiced at it and that kind of thing, but at 3 in the morning when somebody's there, say with pneumonia, you're doing the reflex hammer on like 20 different joints and trying to write the deep tendon reflexes. It just seemed like a massive fucking waste of time a lot of the time. And it opened more problems than it solved, because say somebody's reflexes were diminished on one side. Well, that might just be your testing wasn't great. It's not a real sensitive or specific test. And then are you going to start working them up in case they've had a stroke, and then all the, you know what I mean? So it just, like, I don't know, it created more work than it saved, I think. From an efficiency perspective, it was not a good way to do things. From a learning perspective, it was probably pretty good. Anyway, all that aside, I had this run where, so we didn't have, at the time, I don't think palliative care had a floor where I was training. So we also admitted patients who were like dying, essentially. And I, you know, I had a standard set of palliative orders that we would use. But I had this run of, I think it was like 13 patients who died, all really close together. And there were no like tragedies in that. They were all like in their 80s or 90s, you know, and had like multiple health issues. Like they either came in with an MI or like stage 4 cancer kind of thing, and they were septic. Like that was a pretty common thing, and they just had nowhere to go, so they called us and we admitted them and then kept them comfortable, and then they died. And it got to the point that Rose, the coroner who was on that month, knew me by first name. and all the staff, because it kept happening when I was on. I don't know if anybody suspected I was up to nefarious deeds or what, but it was just like I had to do rounds every morning after being on call, and they'd be like, okay, so who did we admit last night? And I'd say, oh, Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith, and they're both dead. But people would like palliate at home and then just come in to bring their loved one in to die, I guess. It's not funny, it's sad, but you know, it was just bad luck. It was just the run I was on. So then thankfully all that happened like within I don't know, it would have been like a week and a half. And I keep wanting to go in here, by the way, side note, and collect some of these pine cones. I would love to grow some of these white pines. I really love those trees. I'd love to have them around the camp. That's an aside, obviously. This is really rough. I'm trying to... This bike smooths it out a lot, but not completely. I feel like I'm getting battered a little bit. But we're doing okay so far. This is actually the best part of this road. Good grief. You can see the holes. I don't know if you can actually see them, but they're like missing chunks out of the road. Oh, there's a moose over there in the... Yeah, it's too far away. You won't be able to see it on the GoPro. Sorry. Oh yeah, so I finished my run of all my patients dying, which was... I was really depressed by the end of it. I hated that, because you had to call the... Well, and the reason the coroner knew my name, if they died within 24 hours of admission, they had to get, you know, they had to do a coroner's report or whatever. And one guy got an autopsy, and I had admitted him with, I think, CHF, and the autopsy showed he had pneumonia, so I felt really bad. But, I mean, he died within an hour of coming in, and I don't think we could have saved him regardless. But I mean, it was just like, I don't know. And he did have CHF, but he also had pneumonia. Anyway, there were things that I felt bad about, and I just felt really down on myself. And so I was having a pretty bad month. And the next night I was on call, I got called down to the Emerge to admit a patient with all they said was she's having complications of diabetes. And so I said, okay, well, no problem. I went down to the Emerge, and the whole Emerge just had this like oniony smell to it. Yes, you can definitely pass. Please do. And I couldn't figure out what the smell was. And as I was getting closer to the room where this patient was staying, it got stronger and stronger until I went in, and it was just this overpowering smell. And I thought, what is this? My first thought was that there is a substance that smells like garlic called DMSO. And there's this famous case where a lady with stage 4 cancer rubbed it all over herself for pain relief, but everybody who touched her, it got extremely high from it and had like, I don't know, they had like major symptoms. Some people got like osteonecrosis of their hips and stuff like that. So I was thinking, oh, maybe she's done the same thing. And I was like, what are the odds that I would walk into this? But it was more of a onion smell than a garlic smell. And so, holy moly, this is really rough. It's maybe not showing up on the video. Closer to the yellow line seems to be a little better. So look, those bikers were doing this on Harleys or Harley equivalents. So it can't be that bad. Maybe it's better on a bike, who knows? There's an eagle, or maybe just a big crow, never mind. Yeah, so the lady was, you know, tucked into her bed. Her husband was there with her. Her husband was this old, grizzly looking fella, like a mountain man kind of a guy. Plaid shirt, like, I wear plaid shirts every day, but, you know, stubble on his cheeks. Looked pretty old and a little bit out there, a little bit confused maybe. And these people were in their 90s. And so I said, well, what seems to be the problem? And she didn't say anything. I don't think, no, she was still like mentally okay, but her husband did the talking for her. I think it was like that kind of a relationship. And he said, oh, she's got the diabetes, you know, and I've been treating her with vitamin E oil because that's, you know, it's really quite miraculous what it can do. But, you know, she started getting the flies, and they'll, you know, the flies will take away the bad flesh. But it was just, I just wanted to make sure that somebody had a look at it more than anything. Okay. So I was thinking, okay, it's a foot ulcer. So I said, well, why don't you show me where the problem is? And she took off her, like, pulled the blanket down. She was wearing a hospital gown, and her leg had rotted all the way through and was crawling with maggots. And there were maggots in a layer like about an inch deep on the bed, falling out of her leg. Oh, there were flies under the sheets, and you could see the bones, and it looked like you know, the skeleton guys in oh, what's the name of that, Pirates of the Caribbean, how like you can see right through the holes in their flesh. You could see daylight like through her leg, like through the muscle of her calf, and her foot was completely black. And this guy had been putting vitamin E oil on it, and the source of the smell was obviously this leg. Anyway, so what you do in that situation is you spray lidocaine spray, the stuff we use in your mouth and nose when we put in an NG tube. You spray that, oh god, you spray that on the maggots, and I don't know if it kills them or stuns them, but they all fall off. And I tried to clean this thing as best I could. She couldn't feel it, which was good, but I mean, this was way above and beyond what I mean, she needed obviously an amputation. But the guy was like insisting that she didn't, her husband, and that you know, she just needs a little bit of just, you know, maybe some dandelion ointment and ginseng, and I'll make her a mushroom tea. We just wanted to check it out, and we're gonna go back home. You know, she certainly shouldn't be losing the leg. It's a perfectly good leg. You know, it's just it just got a wound on it. Just got some peeled flesh on it. I don't know if that was the word peeled, but that's what he said. That's what it sounded like. Anyway, so I ended up admitting her and putting her on antibiotics. And the next day, I had been considering, like, should I go into internal medicine? I didn't end up in internal medicine, but I thought maybe I'd made a mistake when I chose my specialty, because I was actually okay at internal medicine. I enjoyed it. Other than, you know, having 13 people or so die in a row, it was not a bad, like, I don't know, it was a lot of thinking involved, and I was good at that kind of problem solving usually, but that was just the final nail in the coffin. After that month, I was just like, this is not for me. Like, that lady probably should have been admitted to vascular surgery or orthopedic surgery, or whoever was going to cut her leg off and do the stump and stuff, but they didn't want to come in at night, and so it just falls to internal medicine. It was the weirdest system. I don't know why they do it that way. It seems odd. It seems odd and ill thought out. I'm going to go into 6 just to save a little bit of gas. I'm a nervous Nelly, I will say, and I don't like to over accelerate on roads like this. Oh, this part's a little bit smoother. It's always deceptive. You get this little smooth part, and then it gets even worse. But yeah, that lady's leg was just like the final nail in the coffin. It was so gross, and just so outside of what what are antibiotics going to do? They're maybe prevent infection from getting any higher up her leg, was what I was thinking. But is that an animal? No, it's a tree stump. I saw a big moose here last time I came up this road a couple weeks ago. And I actually took the dog, my dog gets car sick on this road in the truck. And so I pulled over and walked her down one of these side trails and saw a moose one day. Moose are funny, like, they're usually fairly gentle creatures unless you're threatening them. But you don't realize they're like the size of a small elephant. They're huge. I don't know. I wonder if they're the biggest land animal in New Brunswick. They must be. But you know, they're like the males. Their antlers can be like 4 feet across. I guess they call them paddles. They're not antlers. They're all part of the deer family. I do have an interesting story, actually. Speaking of that. So towards the end of the fishing season, a couple of guys from New York come up every year, and I've been fishing with them for the last, oh god, my pelvis, for the last 4 years. This part's got a big bump. I'm going to slow down a bit. Oh, and here is the other one. Yeah. Anyway, these guys come down, and we all own shares of a set of fishing pools, which is kind of lucky because my pool is filled in with rocks. I don't even, and it is, if you've ever dealt with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, oh my gosh, it is, all right, the camera died on me there. Anyway, this knee, I figure it was part of medical training. Okay, the camera's overheating. I'm coming into Chipman now. I'm trying to give it a little more air just to sign off. And listen, have a great day. Ride safe out there. The rides are going to be a little more infrequent now because of... Okay, this is Chipman. I'm out of ability to record, but we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, guys. Well, I've swapped in a fresh battery, and yeah, I made it home safe. You didn't get to see the end of the road or the pretty part past Chipman, and I apologize for that, but maybe we'll do that ride another time. I'm not sure how much of the footage survived, but I'm going to try and piece this all together now and just put a little video up. Yeah, the Goldwing was good. Actually, that road was a lot easier on the bike than it is in a car. As it turns out, when you can weave between the potholes, it's advantageous for the ride quality. So I got a few big bumps, but nothing terrible. I just finished kind of cleaning off the windshield and stuff. There were a ton of bugs. Like, this is late October. This is pretty weird for us. But warm day, and it was just a perfect day for riding. So this guy's going to go into storage in my mom's garage maybe this afternoon, if I can convince my wife to drive me down to her house. And yeah, we'll just keep riding the Goldwing for now. Anyway, if I haven't said it already, ride safe out there, and I apologize in advance, but the uploads are going to be less frequent as the weather becomes colder. But I do have a little surprise vehicle coming that hopefully I can ride a bit in the winter and get some content out there to you. Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.